Recording it. Got it? Maybe one other person?
No, I've got mine now.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Could the interpreters on the Zoom lines please introduce yourselves and share the information for each language on the language line? Why don't we start with Bangla, please? Let's see. Folks on Zoom, are you hearing me okay? Oh yeah, Bangla, I see you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry?
I think you need to repeat it.
Okay. Could we have the Bangla interpreter introduce yourself and give the language line information, please? Can folks hear me on Zoom? Can I
Which
get a-
language?
Yes, Bangla, please. Go ahead.
বাংলা। শুভ সন্ধ্যা। আপনারা যারা এই অনুষ্ঠানটি বাংলাতে শুনতে চান তারা দয়া করে এই নাম্বারটিতে ডায়াল করুন। নাম্বারটি হচ্ছে 347-966-4114। তারপর এই নাম্বারটি এই পিনকোডটি দিন। পাসকোডটি হচ্ছে 360933-365। তারপর হ্যাশট্যাগ কিংবা নাম্বার সাইনটি চাপুন। আমি আবারও বলছি, আপনারা যারা এই মিটিংটি বাংলাতে শুনতে চান তারা দয়া করে এই নাম্বারটিতে ডায়াল করুন। নাম্বারটি হচ্ছে 360966-4114। তারপরে এই পাসওয়ার্ডটি ডালুন। পাসওয়ার্ডটি হচ্ছে 360933-365। তারপর হ্যাশট্যাগ চাপুন কিন্তু এবং নাম্বার সাইনটি যাবেন। আপনাদের কোনো কথা থাকলে কিংবা আপনি চ্যাটের মাধ্যমে আমাদের জানাতে পারেন। ধন্যবাদ। বাংলা অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট has been done.
Thank you so much. Get the Spanish interpreter, please get the language line information.
Buenas tardes. Hoy estaremos ofreciendo servicio de interpretación en español. Para marcar la línea, marque al 347-966-4114. Ingrese el ID de conferencia 134-867-130, símbolo numeral. Si desea escuchar este audio en español, pero desea permanecer en la sala de conferencia con Zoom para poder ver a la audiencia en su computadora, silencie la computadora y el volumen y marque su teléfono a la línea de conferencia en español. Nuevamente, la línea de conferencia en español es 347-966-4114. Ingrese el número de conferencia 134-867-130, símbolo numeral. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the Mandarin interpreter, please.
请在线上的家长如果需要普通话翻译，请拨打347-966-4114，之后请拨打280-429-287井号键。我再重复一次，347-966-4114，之后打 ID 号码280-429-287井号键。请在线上的家长如果需要普通话翻译，请记得把你的麦克风关掉，这样才不会影响其他在线上的人。谢谢。Thank you. Mandarin announcement is completed.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see. Too many tabs open. Kira, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure. And I apologize. Tell me when I'm saying them wrong. Councilmember Angelica Cesario. Present. Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Elton Dodson. Councilmember Ken Eby.
Present.
Yes, right. Okay. I'm not getting this right. Councilmember Angelica Jadunandan. Jadunandan. Present. Sorry. Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Wanless.
Present.
Councilmember Xingsha Zhu.
Yes.
And Councilmember Kara Swarling Bowler.
Thank you so much. For folks who are joining us on Zoom, I just dropped a sign-in form that if you could please sign in there, that would be great. The guests in the room, please sign in when you enter. Kim, would you mind doing the public comment protocol?
Sure. Tonight's in-person meeting will include a public comment period at the end of the meeting. When you comment, please comment on the topic, respect the privacy of others, and please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. If you have a question outside of this comment period, please signal it by raising your hand or writing it in the chat. If time permits, we will respond to these additional questions that arise at other times. It is possible that not every comment or question will be given time, in which case we encourage you to write the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment or question.
Great, thank you very much. And this is a business meeting, so we're not anticipating as much by way of public comment tonight. There'll probably be more internal discussion, but of course, we always welcome folks to chime in with questions as appropriate to the topics that we're working with. So welcome everybody. I hope that the new school year has started really well for all of you and for your families. I know that as the school year begins, our council has a lot of areas where we want to focus. This feels like a council that has a lot of energy and interest, and I know there's lots of places that we all want to dig in and do good work. This is, balanced by the fact that new issues are cropping up all the time. And so I think one of our challenges as a council is always going to be navigating that push and pull between the long-term priorities that we all have and share and the emergent changes and challenges that may come up along the way. So just as an example, here are a few of the things that I learned about just in the past week. These are not things that are on our agenda, but I mentioned them just as things that are on my mind as we think about what our council is doing and perhaps on all of our minds as parents and as community members. So the first thing is that a charter school that had been authorized in District 16 in 2012 has all of a sudden at the start of this school year opened a new high school in Sunset Park, which is in our District 15. They held no public hearings and there was no community input. This has been an ongoing issue in our district as in other districts. Charter schools use public funds and they also can absorb, students who would be enrolled in our community schools. We discussed this last year when we passed 2 resolutions about charter schools. Sunset Park is already really well served by public schools. Several new public schools have opened there in the last few years. And adding charters in that environment is unnecessary and may draw students away from those really vibrant educational spaces. So that's one concern. Another is that there's new federal guidance that could restrict the ways that schools address issues of gender identity and inclusion in their curriculum. The district has assured us that no changes are being made to New York City Public Schools curriculum, but this is one of many ongoing threats that we are seeing from the federal administration to the ways that we educate our kids and the ways that our kids can feel that they belong in our school spaces. Another, parent advocates and educational leaders are rallying to demand better busing. This is an ongoing need, especially for students with disabilities who need reliable transportation. I'm going to drop a link in the chat to this full report, which includes links to learn more about the efforts to support better busing and also a link to information about a rally that's taking place on Monday, September 22nd, if this is an issue that you want to show up in support of. One thing that was good news in another state is that New Mexico has guaranteed universal no-cost childcare to all families in the state. And following that announcement, the New York coalition of the Alliance for Quality Education is renewing their call for New York to enact a similar measure. And finally, an audit by Comptroller Brad Lander's office has shown that English language learners are not being adequately served by New York City Public Schools. And we know this from our own experiences. In fact, I think we may be having a language access issue right now.
If the changes the audio.
She was saying that you couldn't hear.
Oh, shoot,
Can you hear now?
Can't move it.
is it better?
Say it again. Maybe I'm going to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, Dave. So I was just saying that Brad Lander's office issued a report saying that English language learners are not being adequately served by New York City Public Schools. And we know this to be true in our own experiences, right? Too often, the diversity of New York City Public Schools is seen as a hurdle rather than an advantage and a resource. So all this to say is that it can be tricky to balance these longstanding challenges and new urgencies. But as a council, we'll do our best. We can't tackle everything at the same time. So we'll be prioritizing. Today's business meeting will focus mainly on structure. Most of the agenda is dedicated to the possibility of setting up a new working group structure that will allow us to dig into some of these issues in meaningful ways, while still moving forward on all of our public commitments and maintaining a schedule that works for families. So this is all just by way of saying that I know that so many things are happening all the time. It's on all of our minds. And just because we may not address something in one particular meeting doesn't mean that it's fallen off the radar. And that we will all be collectively relying on one another to make sure that these things that are important do stay top of mind, so that as we get our foundation under us, we can start digging in week by week. So thank you. And with that, I will shift into the next item of business, which is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes for approval today from March 11th, 2025, so last term, and concurrently August 19th of this term. These are available in the folder and in the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to request to these 2 sets of minutes? So the minutes are approved as circulated. Angelica Jadinanda, do you have anything to report from the treasurer's side?
The reimbursement forms have been coming in. Thank you. We want to get those in every single month so that nobody's missing their reimbursement, and then I'll be keeping track of everything, the FAMIS number that once it's been entered, right? I know some people might just be sending them to you, but should we both be on this since I'm keeping track of it?
I think so. I think when you're submitting reimbursements, always send them to Angelica, Shanice, and me, and that way we've got a backstop in case one of us misses it. Thank you. Yeah, one of the challenges with reimbursements is that it is, once things go into the system, we have very little visibility on what happens next. So record keeping for the parts that we can't control is really important.
Should we wait to submit till the second meeting of the month? Or, I mean, while we have 2 meetings, does it make, like, do you have a preference? Should we?
I think it depends. I mean, if you have maxed out your request by the first meeting, then just go for it. But if you're requesting, parking reimbursements or whatever, then wait.
Yeah. Second one.
Okay. Great, thanks, Angelica. Elton and Kim, I will turn it over to you to talk about all the work you've been doing to both set us up for some potential bylaw changes and to set up some possible new working group structures. Does one of you want to give us an intro?
Okay, Okay, well, good evening, everyone. And I thank all of you for your compliments, hard work, and I just was brainstorming, so, and I wanna thank Elton for, when he does his part, you'll see he's more thorough. But the document, as I said, I was just kind of brainstorming based on what the Article 5 said on what it should look like for us as, working groups. So I'm just gonna go through it quickly. I don't know if everyone had a chance to, look at it, and then I'll let Elton do this. So it's, pretty much similar to what would have happened if it was, election. What we can say is that people can volunteer. And the group is established by the council, right? They may continue throughout the academic year, but they don't have to, so I use the term may, right? And we'll have a list of working groups that is available that we can kind of select from. And then there might be short-term working groups that just like pop up based on a need, or like I'm working on a resolution, data piece, and then I would just, that would be over once that resolution is submitted. As far as, some of the structure, someone on the committee of the council itself must be the chair. And they can have, I had 6, but, so Tina will say maybe 7. Members, must vote for a council member to be,
Yeah, I thought 7 only because 7 is our usual quorum number,
Okay.
and majority approval number, so that keeps it consistent.
okay, so if a council member, a chair has to be removed, then the council has to vote and it has to be for, right? Each working group must have a minimum of 3 members, including the chair, and I said a maximum of 6, just feeling like 3 is enough to get something going, maybe even 2. But the main piece is that you don't want it too big also, the Senate is not as constructive. But definitely we can hear from Elton and put with this. So that's kind of something that could be discussed. Each group operates under the CEC bylaws. Another key piece is that the chairs are responsible for sharing with the council at the appropriate meetings what they found, whether they're doing some, research or interviews or whatever. They are permitted to conduct the research, they are permitted to go to schools, they are permitted to visit PTAs and so forth, just to make sure that they're establishing, whatever information or collecting data, whatever they need to do, they kind of like are sanctioned to do that. Now that speaks to someone who's not on a chair on the council, representing, the CEC in some regard, so just wanna be clear on that. They propose and draft resolutions that would be presented to the council and, approved. And they can, create presentations, I put as needed, but, take out this. So, let's see if I forgot anything. So a major piece is who would be on the council. The chair would be responsible for recruiting and vetting that person, and I had a vetting protocol, which I'll probably save for after Elton speaks, because I don't know if you included anything like that, right? Yeah, so I'll save that. And the chair is also responsible for, of course, scheduling meetings, notifying the working group members of any other meetings that they need to attend, keeping records and, agendas, and inviting guests and monitoring attendance. Okay, so I think that is all from mine, then I'll go into, I think we can go ahead and then I'll go into the vetting I did have a list of different recommended committees, but I think we can kind of do that together.
And thank you so much for all your work on this. So you put yours together and was very, very thoughtful. I took that. So taking a step back, I think that this process that we discussed at the last meeting, I'm very excited about it because we really want the CEC to be a resource, a source of engagement for our parents and families and public parent leadership in our community. We want to bring them in and feel invested in everything that the CEC does. We don't want to be a table of talking heads that throws around acronyms and technical terms that people don't feel particularly, a part of. So the concept of working groups is to really bring the public in to the thinking apparatus of the CEC. So when you think about those goals, then, I put on the lawyer hat, the person who throws cold water and everything all the time and says, no, you can't do that. So to me, a central tenet of a working group structure or a committee type structure is to maximize the potential of engagement from family members in our community that have limited time and resources to be a part of meetings. And we want to encourage attendance. We want to encourage the free flow of ideas. We want to maximize the flexibility in how and where we have meetings. So the first thing I want to say is that obviously everyone here is super committed to transparency, to making sure that everyone knows what we're doing, what our thinking is, and that, there's no back boardrooms on the CEC. That being said, we also come up against the fact that we are a state mandated entity and we get into the open meetings laws. And so we have to find a compromise between making sure that we fulfill our legal obligations to transparency under state law and that we maximize participation of the public at the same time. And as we know, if we are subject, if these committee or working group meetings are subject to open meeting laws, then we have to have them on school property. We can't put them on Zoom. There's so many limitations that I think that would probably make the idea dead in the water because it would be so difficult to involve our parent and community leaders. So when I wrote my replacement for Article 5, ironically, it's funny because my wife wrote Article 5. Sorry. I had that in mind. How do we follow the law? I researched case precedent on this. How do we follow the law to maximize engagement, but make sure that we are abiding by our obligations to the public for transparency or for state law? So some of the things are that I think that, for example, and I'm just being the lawyer here, Kim.
Of course.
That if, for example, we require this body to vote to appoint a CEC chair to the body, I think that gets us in gray area as far as OML. The case precedent itself on CECs in general is not very deep. So there is some flexibility there. But the idea of a working group is that it's gotta be non-binding. It cannot be official business of the CEC. So let's say you're talking about a specific thing that we want the CEC to pass. I think we have to be cautious because that could be construed something that is more properly a business meeting of the CEC. And when that happens, and there's a provision in here that I wrote, that meeting has to stop. If it's really important and that discussion happens, that's great. But when it crosses that line into official business, the meeting needs to stop. It doesn't mean the working group can't meet on this, but then it has to be properly noticed as an official CEC meeting and then appropriately convened under the open meeting laws.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So discussion around the creation of a resolution. Where does that fall?
Right, it's like the lawyer answer, it depends. If you're writing the resolution in the group, it's a little more gray area, right? But if you're talking about what you would want to make a representation, if you write down a whole list of community recommendations, which is how I refer to it in Article 5, and then you present that, and then the liaison to that working group, which would be a CEC member, then can advance that community, it can be written, that community recommendation to the CEC for further discussion and action, so it can be massaged into an official resolution that can be voted on the calendar. That makes sense. Yeah. So. Great minds.
I don't know if it came out there. but-
Great minds. No, I mean, I based everything on what you wrote.
Okay.
You wrote it first. So I just put the boring legalese spin on it. So that's essentially, I mean, I don't want to belabor it. That's essentially the sort of outline of this, that we maximize the availability of the community to engage, but we fulfill those obligations that we should be filling under state law, because transparency is essential to everything that we do. So that we are sort of above reproach in anything that comes out of this. But we are then able to involve the community directly in the ideas that are at the center of everything that we do to make our community a safe and joyous place for our kids to learn. So I don't know, Madam President, how you want to deal with the wording of this, if Kim and I can sort of go through a reconciliation process for this, or how you want to proceed.
But yeah, we should.
Yeah, let's talk.
Thank you both. Awesome. Doing it so well. I love that we're doing this and putting working groups together, and I agree 100% with the central tenet. Really just a couple questions I have. One is, right, we have all been vetted in terms of like interest we might have. How do we kind of address that as part of our vetting process? And then to play devil's advocate a little bit, one component that gives me a little bit of pause is committee members like doing school visits or attending meetings on our behalf, and that you're trying to articulate why. And I think it's, but one, we've all been elected as representatives, and we're also school liaisons also. So how do we kind of streamline that and, you know, and maintain a little bit of control to some extent? So I think just that part gives me a little bit of pause.
It should.
Yeah. So, any other questions on the vetting piece? So I could go to that and then we could circle back with more questions. I think that's a good segue. So definitely, like I said, this is just brainstorm and all of our input is gonna make the final product. But I did, consider that the person would have to describe what their background is, their relationship and or expertise pertaining to what that particular group is discussing. Now, if they're just a parent that's interested, that's what they would have to say, right? And maybe we do add that question if that they should disclose any like relationship they may have to this topic, right? So besides just, well, I put relationship. Is that too vague, or do we like specifically want to say, do they feel like there's a conflict of interest?
I think if I'm hearing Angelica's question, the intention behind the question, right? Like part of it is like not just about potential conflicts of interest, but also I think about the relationships that we maintain with the schools.
Yeah,
You
so
know.
I'm gonna get to that part, but I wanna get to like the first piece where you're actually like you're vetting first. You're saying, why do you wanna be on this committee? Is there a conflict of interest? So like if you think that's.
I'll just that's so, a couple things, really good points. On the legal side, they can't, these working groups absolutely cannot do anything official on our behalf. And that's kind of the beauty of it in the first place, is that however we want to sort of, let me put my thoughts together. I would be reticent to formalize in our bylaws any kind of strictly delineated sort of vetting process because it puts us, and that does sort of, it cuts both ways. It puts us in a little bit of legal gray area in that if we are exercising too much direct control over the working group, then it starts to become official. And once it's official, it's subject to OML right away. On the other hand, it does insulate us from, not that the co-leads or chairs or whatever we call them of it should not be able to sort of, when they're putting this committee or working group together, should not develop for that particular working group specific parameters of who they would like to have or recruit in that group. But it does insulate us from, like, there's the things that we need to do as elected members of this, as far as our financial conflicts and things like that, those don't apply because it's not an official group. It's sanctioned by the CEC. It's a listening group that the CEC liaison will report back to. But it carries no official authority within the DOE under state law or on our behalf. So they couldn't go to any school or represent themselves to be representatives of the CEC.
Okay, well,
They would have to like ask, and they have to be invited, and they would be in their capacity, individual capacities.
okay, so my question is, and the way I envisioned this was that the chair, the official CEC member is going, and they're bringing a working group person with them. Would that be allowed? Because you kind of, as the working group person, you're saying, hey, Carol, come with me as a parent and see what I see. And then when we go back and we can talk about it and see how it impacts this particular topic that we're discussing. So is that allowed, or do you think we should just not?
I mean, it's worth asking smarter people than me, but I feel very uncomfortable with us appointing a CEC chair to a working group. I think that puts us in questionable grounds with OML.
Oh, I thought it was just like a volunteer. So who would be on the working group?
I mean, you would have a CEC liaison. And I think you're pretty safe if you have sort of co-leads on it, as long as one of them is not a CEC member and the other one is just a reporting liaison and observer. But if they have authority over this working group in any way, then you start becoming an official apparatus of the CEC, and then you're subject to OML.
Anthony.
So my suggestion as someone who works in base physics getting CEC, I think you're going a little too, you're making processes that you're now going to have, right? If you're doing a vetting process, this is something you're going to have to do if you're vetting.
Right.
Right. And it could become a little too much with all the other work that you have to do.
Okay.
I'm all for getting people who are knowledgeable about this topic. I'm all for that. But sometimes there's just parents who want to come in to gather information and to learn so that they can help their school as well. And that's how they learn. That's how they build their parent leadership capacity. And then you would essentially be not letting them onto a council because they don't have knowledge or expertise in that certain area.
Okay.
For the chair or the alternate chair, that is just somebody who is convening the people together, that they're nothing other than I'm gathering these people together. That's all I'm doing. I'm creating the Zoom. It's not like they have an official title or you're just convening people together.
Okay.
Essentially to discuss a topic.
Yeah.
That you're gonna bring back to the CEC for the CEC to discuss at their meeting, to then either write a resolution, come up with something based on the suggestions that that working group has.
Okay, so at this point, we're not having a chair from the council.
So-
Because that makes it, is that what they're saying?
Here's what it's sounding like to me. I mean, I think that there's two different layers of structure for us to think about. One is the level of our bylaws, which is the most binding level of structure. And so we want to keep that, as flexible as we reasonably can while, maintaining and adhering to the requirements that we have. So in the bylaw revisions, it sounds like we want to stay away from getting too granular about how we set up the committees, how they're composed. Even like what the subject matter is, I think is something that doesn't really need to be in the bylaws. What we need to have in our bylaws is the fact that the council can establish working groups. That the working groups would be made up of at least somebody from the council and somebody from the community. And then kind of the ripple effects of like what that shift does to other areas of the bylaws. And then separate from that, as a council, we want to also have some understandings in place about what that actually looks like when we're trying to do the work. And I think that's where the materials that you put together will be really helpful in thinking about like, okay, we want to put together a committee on transportation. How do we actually start and who do we talk to and what does that look like? I think the terminology of like chair versus liaison is something that we can decide on based on what gives us the most latitude to do the work we want to do. Knowing that, you know, there's got to be someone from the council who's there. Otherwise, it's not a council work, right? It's just, it can be a community advocacy space, but it's not helpful to the council. And is that like corresponding with what others are hearing, thinking?
Yeah.
So right now, I'm putting that according to our practice, not what's in the bylaws, there will be one council member on each working group.
Yeah, like in
And their roles
practice.
can be,
Now, they don't have to be the one convening.
they don't need to be that.
They will need to put that in.
They can, yeah,
Like, for example, in like section 4 part, the language that I wrote was liaisons shall not commit the council to a position or action and shall avoid deliberating toward a council decision outside of notice council meeting. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah.
Whatever the CEC person does, so long as they're not doing that,
Yeah.
they're pretty safe fine.
And then the main thing we really need them to do is make sure that they're coming back here and sharing it.
yeah. That's,
Sharing it too. Okay,
so do I keep in the minimum number piece?
I think that this can be a working document.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a.
Yeah, and also, sorry, I am like, I edit things like for my job, and so
Oh,
I'm
it's totally
aggressive
fine.
with the comments and suggestions.
No problem. It's great. I have a question about community members,
Mhm.
right? Does that include DOE staff, district staff? Or is it only like a parent we are establishing?
That's a good question.
Parents or, businesses in the community.
Okay.
Have expertise in certain areas.
But if there is a DOE employee with expertise, are they, like, I know they can't serve on the CEC, but in terms of these working groups, it would make sense that for some of the working groups,
Yeah.
it would be very beneficial to have a DOE employee who
I would,
wanted to be a part of.
They're not doing official business.
They're not doing official business, it's just dialogue.
I think a good way to kind of navigate it is to say they can come in as a guest. To like present certain information, but they don't have to be like a consistent, because I do feel like if they're on the committee, it might be a little bit. Not intimidating for parents, but may feel a little.
And additionally, this is not, it's, I guess, food to think about that, this would be for the DOE employee. The individual to determine, but there may be some conflicts with their particular roles at the DOE participating, you know, in these conversations, so. That's another issue to consider.
So with the hope expectation that we will have a revised, finalized version for the calendar meeting where we will read through that, discuss it, as well as a revision to the number of meetings we will be holding, where we reduce it from 2 to 1, and we add a point that we will add working group discussion as an agenda item, if any working group discussions need to be, so that we can then vote, read that at the next 2 calendar meetings, and then we vote in October
Yeah,
on both of those revisions.
yeah, as far as procedure, that sounds right to me. I mean, those are the steps we need to take to be able to. So, right, I mean, but working groups.
Working groups.
Um,
I mean, some, they could be called anything, so long as, the only lawyer sentence here that in New York state law is that these committees, working groups, whatever you call them, cannot be a necessary step in official CEC business. Advisory ideas or.
But adding a note to saying we allow for working group reports
mhm,
to an
Yeah.
agenda item.
No, I mean, that's specifically,
That's,
yeah, it should be. Okay, that seems great. Does anybody else have substantive comments or questions about like the existence of working groups, the direction we're moving right now as a council? Aside from like which working groups and how exactly we want to set them up, starting at that like bylaws level. Any other questions we should address?
I just think just maybe philosophically it would be helpful for us to just think about what work we are envisioning a working group to take on. Yeah, I really,
You did a good job.
I appreciated the principles that you mentioned, Elton, that we're looking to engage parents more, engage families more, make this much more accessible in terms of their abilities to contribute. And then we're also trying to comply with the transparency requirements we have. But I think it's fair for us to ask, to what extent are we essentially outsourcing some of the work that we as individual council members should be doing to engage parents and families through our work as liaisons to schools and as parents, just generally. And so, as issues come up, as some of these topics that are concerning to particular communities or parents and families come up, then we will tend to see parents showing up, I assume, at these meetings, right? If there's something of particular concern. So, I think it's kind of it's a broad question for us philosophically to think about. And also in terms of design, how do we kind of facilitate or empower community engagement and ownership, such that we're not saying, here's another structure, you gotta fit into this box to participate, but we are in fact going out and facilitating, organizing among communities, family members, as they will organically happen, and then doing our work to bring that information back so that we can be more effective council members and more effective council.
Yeah.
Is it just?
I think those are great points.
Well, and I think that it highlights what I hope these working groups are able to do, which is like, kind of like what I was saying in the beginning about how there are so many long-term sticky issues that we know are not going to get resolved in one meeting, that probably not going to get resolved in one meeting. AQE, there's stuff that they've been working on for 20 years before they see legislation come to fruition, right? So it just takes an incredible amount of patience and persistence. And it is hard to do that as a council when, it's hard to have really meaty conversations about this stuff when we also have just other business we have to attend to. And so, one concrete example I think is Angelica, I know you're a part of a group of parents who are committed to the rights of gender expansive kids. And this is an organic, parent-led group that has sprung up because of a need and because of interest. And you are an important voice on the council bringing that knowledge, but there's no reason not to involve those folks in the conversations in, say, drafting a resolution that the council can then move forward. And you also shouldn't have to do that alone, right? Like you don't become like the one voice for trans kids. And so being able to draw on a community of expertise and care to advance some of these issues. I think similar things about like transportation, right? And like immigration rights, like these are things that we know are going to be challenges every single year. And so if there's folks who feel like they can dig in and engage and know others in their, I mean, what we don't want is it to become like kind of cliquish, you know, in the sense that like someone might already know people in their school community who do X, Y, or Z. We do want to be able to cast a wide net. And I do think that, you know, the practical pieces that Kim has put together around questions like vetting and selection, I think those do matter a lot as far as the balance between expertise and inclusion in thinking about the committee and the working groups. And so I do think those questions of practice are things we need to work out together. But yeah, I mean, more than outsourcing the work to others, I think the vision of like drawing people in feels good. Keep it in mind.
Yeah, so just to build on what you were saying, Katina, to answer your question. You know, thinking back to how we got here, right? Like last month, we were thinking about, okay, well, if we change our meetings monthly, right? How do we make sure we're still getting the important work done and that we're being as efficient as possible and that we're using these meetings in the best way possible to move things forward? So I think that's the goal of these work groups. In between meetings, ourselves and parents, members of the community are sitting down, grappling with these issues, figuring out what next steps are so that when we have our meetings as a council, we're having discussions of some sort. That's kind of how I envision.
And Ken, to your point, I think that when something becomes a big issue and there's a ton of public comment, this gives us the flexibility to say, you know what, there's a lot going on here. Instead of just waiting for 3 hours to get public comment, why don't we establish a working group on that particular topic? And now you are an active participant and bringing ideas forward to the CEC for eventual action. You know, it's a tool to help bring people into the process.
And to that point, I don't see any reason why a member of the public couldn't propose a group. It doesn't mean that the council has to establish, a working group. Now that I've said it 3 times.
Council.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the council has to establish that working group, but certainly like voices of parents as far as what matters to them in our community. So, let's see. So it sounds like action items would be polishing up the bylaws piece for the next meeting so that we can start the process of actually getting those approved. And then concurrently, maybe working together and folks can keep weighing in on those documents about the practice piece and how we actually want it to look.
So I've been editing as we're talking.
Oh, great.
But definitely, like Katina did, go ahead and make comments if you have comments. There is a long list of possible working groups, which I kind of feel like if we could today, just narrow it down to 3, if not, time permitted, another time, or just like chime in based on the comments when you get a chance. But yeah, I've definitely been editing and kind of deleting some of the things. I'm gonna keep the vetting section, just so it's just for thought. It's like, as you talk to people, what are some questions you want to ask them? It's not a practice that you have to do, that kind of thing, right?
Does it make sense to keep these 2 documents separate
Yes.
where we've got the bylaws that we're legally bound to, and then we have the guidance for
I like that.
how we move forward.
Yeah.
So we're not, yeah, so
We
we're not
want
bound
them, I
to,
think, yeah, I think, absolutely, I think we want the bylaws to be as bare bones as necessary to maximize the flexibility. And to your other point, not make it so onerous and administrative overhead and burdensome that parents don't even know how to participate or they're excluded because of, inflexibility.
right.
Okay, this sounds really good. And I even just retitled the practice-based document to be working group guidance and ideas, so that we all know this is like not a binding structure. This is to help inform the practice. And so this is something that, I guess, like between now and next time, if everybody could really think about like what you would want to get involved in, this will be, these will be as effective or as dormant as the people in this room want them to be. So, think about where you have energy and momentum and where you really want to do some good work. And yeah, Elton, I mean, what do you need from folks in order to polish up the legal piece?
Just comments, just things that people are uncomfortable with, things that people have questions about, things that they think should be in there or shouldn't be in there. Like I said, I kept it just basically focused on the legal side to maximize our flexibility while protecting the process.
Great. And then my last question about that was whether we need something in the bylaws that still says like the council can establish committees, or maybe we don't need that because it's in phases. Like,
The comment I wrote on that when I
Yeah.
saw your comment
Like,
was
just
that
leave it
if the next council decides they want to,
yeah,
when somebody else in Elton and Vanessa's family comes along and says, we want to rewrite Article 5 again. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what the new council can do. They can decide we agree with the structure, let's switch it up.
okay,
Because I think it'll just be more work, or I don't know, potentially more work.
And I think that's a very different thing too, right? Because an official committee would be subject to OML. That would be a working group where you could actually be doing like the work, actually constructing the resolutions and things like that. It would just be a different sort of process.
Kara, you feel good? Shinsan, feel good? Okay. I think I heard voices from everybody. Okay, great. So we're not voting on this today, but this will come forward at the next meeting when we actually have to verbally read, not the entire bylaws, but just the.
We don't.
portions that are-
So why didn't we do that before?
I don't-
You read the entire bylaws?
Twice,
Twice.
twice.
I remember that.
That was the first meeting I came to,
Right.
after getting a seat
I'm
on the
pretty
CEC,
sure-
and I was like.
I'm pretty sure everybody fell asleep.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Not really. I joke. We were all awake. It was just.
Make sure I let her,
Yeah.
make sure I let her know you said that when I.
So the other piece that this affects is our calendar, which I know there's a couple calendar things that Anthony also wanted to talk about. But Shanice, maybe you could pull up that calendar link from the agenda so we can look at that on the screen as well. This is kind of a separate business item, but it is connected, because this is part of what we're trying to do, right? So if we move forward with this structure, then we would still need to keep our October 14th business meeting. But after that, we would be having combined meetings, which we already are for November, December, and January. So we actually have like a nice long buffer before it's a relevant question. But then starting in February, each one, so like line 34 and line 41, those meetings would come on.
So I just have a question on this then.
Yeah.
So I think we say the second and fourth Tuesdays is what we were doing for the two meetings. Do we just say the second Tuesday to be earlier in the month? And then the working
Do we have to
groups?
say?
Or do we have to say?
We have
Do
to say.
I think we have to specify, right?
Yeah, so the
Really?
people know.
Yeah. So which,
Good question.
Yeah.
I would say the first, because it's the beginning of the month.
Or you. Second Tuesday. Next month.
I'll just compress the time.
it would, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be shorter. Do we split the difference to go third?
Well,
We could, if it's once a month.
Do we know? Anyone heard when the President's Council decided to meet this year?
I know.
We don't want to step on that.
I
Are
don't
they
even know,
also
is it
Tuesdays?
Liz?
I think they're Mondays. I should know this.
I think they're Mondays too, when we had the joint meetings, I think they were on Mondays.
Okay, so
Do you know if Liz is co-president again?
Liz definitely, I don't know if they have a code.
I mean, the other thing that we could do, and I think we do have language in the bylaws currently that is like, it's the second and fourth Tuesday unless there are holidays or whatever, because like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, the calendar as it's set up now works around all of the breaks, and days off. So. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, we could say, we could keep. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't,
I don't have a problem.
so,
Time conflict with Kinsha and a meeting after.
It should, yeah.
Just checking to make sure.
okay, so just
Only-
let's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the calendar,
Yeah,
I
but
think
about-
June, we were only doing one meeting, and it happened to be the second
Uh-huh.
Tuesday. So should we just stick with the second Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Because
Most of the other ones.
most of the other ones, yeah, are also in the beginning, I think it just,
the only thing is, since the 28th, we're out of school, we should keep that one. Oh, or you could change that,
which one?
October
That
28th.
one we have to keep 2 meetings that month.
Oh,
That's
okay,
the last month where we have
Okay,
to
so
keep the
then-
2 meetings, then we'll vote on it on the 28th,
okay.
Wait.
So then,
Oh, yeah,
No.
correct? Yeah,
so
Um,
we're paying, so it's January, that's after January, that's.
so
So it's
February.
January,
Yeah.
February.
February will be the
Yeah,
first.
so then we would have meetings on February 10, March 10, April 14. Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good schedule.
Reach out to Liz and establish those joint meetings.
Yeah, okay,
And the breakfast week one.
right. All right, that sounds good.
And then I mean, so then are all of them gonna be here, just so then we're crossing off all the ones that are different locations?
So then I think what makes the most sense is to shift them so that we will, so the locations that are listed on here for now are proposed. We need to reach out to the principals and make sure that they have availability and all of that. What I tried to do in choosing the schools that I put on here were 2 things. Three things. ADA accessibility, proximity to transit, and some distribution across the district. So I do think it would be nice for us to be able to go to the different neighborhoods that our district represents. So I'll shift the dates and locations on this calendar. The good thing is we always have this space if something doesn't work at one of the schools, so we can always meet here if we need to. And then there's 3 special items on the calendar as of now. The first is the superintendent with, yeah, the town hall with the superintendent and Project Open Arms, which is next week, September 16th. That's virtual, so no meeting location for that one. The Chancellor's Town Hall on December 1st, which Anthony, I think you wanted to say something about?
No, just seeing if you, selected the location.
Yes, I think you were copied on that from Shanice, maybe not, I'll forward it to you. The high school of the arts
Okay.
on Dean Street. And their principal has confirmed that they have availability, so,
That's,
one of the reasons that I wanted to choose a spot for the Chancellor's Town Hall that is really easy for people to get to, and since Brooklyn High School of the Arts is right by Atlantic Terminal, people can come from pretty much everywhere, so. even though it's a bit odd, like, we don't represent very many high schools, so like, that's not maybe the most representative school for us, but I do think that like, a lot of people generally come to these, so we want to make it easy for them to look at. I don't think they are, I think I looked at them,
At 38.
yeah, I think it was, because you and I talked, oh no, we talked about
It
34.
wasn't 38, talked about 39. I think 38 is, that's on this list here. I think 38 is ADA, on Pacific,
Well,
but I think the good
think
thing about
high
high school
schools-
arts is it's
yeah.
got that massive auditorium.
yeah.
So like the last Chancellor's Town Hall we did in 51, which also has a massive auditorium,
It's full.
and it was packed. So I think some of the other, I feel like a lot of the primary schools don't have same size as the middle
So
and high
just a quick
schools.
question for clarity, is the Chancellor's Town Hall for our district or it's the citywide?
Our district.
Um,
Yeah, and from what I understand, like, in theory, the chancellor does these at every district, and in practice, they tend to prioritize the districts that are really like active and working.
The chancellor has to go there.
Oh, really?
Every 2 years, right?
So yeah, every
Got
single,
it.
so they have 2 years to get to every district.
Oh, okay.
oh, okay.
Thank you. And the last special item that I just want to flag for everybody to get on your calendar is, we haven't gotten confirmation of the date yet, but Shanice, this is probably something you and I should start working on after this meeting, is the legislative breakfast. Hopefully like January 23rd on that Friday, and it's usually in the morning, obviously, breakfast. But it is like a fairly big chunk of time, so it's a good day. Keep in mind on your but I think that's all I had to say about calendars.
What is our role at the Chancellor's Town?
What's what?
Our.
So you were on the council.
Yep.
It's much more formal than every other meeting. So how it worked last time was we, as a council, circulated internally questions that we wanted to ask. And then after we sort of circulated the questions and found themes, we then wrote out, I think we settled on 4, I can find it, I think it was like 4 or 5 questions that were gonna require very in-depth answers. And we just spread those questions across the council members. And it started with the president's reports, I think kind of introductions, president's report. I believe the chancellor will then say some words to some, right? And then after that, it transitions to the question and answer period. So we started with our questions, and then after we were done with our questions, it then went to questions for the public. Does that sound?
And questions from the public, if I recall correctly, were collected on like index cards so that they could be pre-screened.
Yeah, so did Face bring people to that coordinates the questions, right, in the audience?
We'll get off the comment cards, and then give it to you.
Yeah, and I think we just like quickly kind of went through them and put them into themes, and then I think asked the questions that had the most cards initially. We got to as many as we could.
It's also, I mean, if, I think I remember from the last one, which I attended just as a parent, like, it's a time when people might show up to protests, right? It's a time when people are gonna come with signs, and when they're gonna like come and make their voices heard, even if they're not asking a question. So I think just being aware that that's like parents don't have a ton of ways to get their voice in front of the chancellor, and this is one of them. So,
Yeah, there were a couple different protests at that one.
yeah, which is.
Yeah, it's great. It's what
Yeah.
they should be doing.
Great. Okay, great. So we'll get this calendar finalized and posted to the website in a slightly like prettier version. And then, Shanice, I think you usually like send out calendar invites way in advance to folks here, right? So that everybody can get them locked into your calendars, arranged chunk and all that.
So there was a question in the chat that we missed, asking about the difference between
Oh, yeah.
business and calendar meeting.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, because the terminology is like not super clear. business meetings are largely intended for internal discussions and structural discussions, kind of like the one we're having today. Business meetings might be where we talk about budget and bylaws and things related to the way that the CEC works. Calendar meetings typically have slightly more formal presentations of some kind. The superintendent is always at the calendar meetings and typically gives a presentation about things happening in the district that month. Sometimes we may have district offices or citywide offices represented to talk about cell phone policies or food in the cafeterias or busing or other things that are of interest to the council. Sometimes we might have community groups come in and present. We've had groups come in and talk about, library access or different things that they may be working towards. So in those calendar meetings, I would say those are the slightly more like publicly oriented meetings, although the public is welcome at both calendar and business meetings. But business meetings tend to be a little, inside baseball.
Something just to think about and add to, so for the last 2 years, we often would bring different representatives to the business meetings, like the Office of Services and like there was sort of a list of people that would come every year. I know we had facilities come. And so I think we'll just need to strategically think about how we integrate those same groups into the calendar meeting.
So that's the technicality, the meetings that we have once a month are technically calendar and business now.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna be long. The other thing that I was thinking, as far as those sort of visiting guests who present in different ways, is that we could structure those as webinars.
We could.
Like we don't, on one hand, like it's nice to do them at an existing meeting because you have a built-in audience, both us and many parents who are in attendance. But we don't need quorum to hear about Office of District Planning or to hear about food service or whatever. And so if we're feeling, I think some of it will need to kind of feel out like how packed the meeting agendas are feeling, what kind of bandwidth we feel like we have for adding more stuff on our calendars on other days. But for some things we can think about, doing a webinar separately. We can record one, we can invite parents.
A webinar is where you gain information. There's not a lot of chance to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the important aspects of being on this committee, where we're here representing parents who will have specific questions about specific topics. I mean, I think the idea of going over the list and making that decision, which ones may be just like for information. And then of course, knowing what our foci are for the rest of this year would be helpful also.
Yeah.
Whether it's ELL students and immigration issues, busing issue, maybe like 3 top ones like we can decide on. And then that would help us to make a decision regarding which, yes, whether DOE or not, that we wanna interact with, specifically.
Yeah, and some of the working groups, we wanna have some, I mean, that's like, if it's something that's a little more like deep dive.
Yeah,
topic.
Yeah, could they attend a working group meeting and then the liaison presented?
Yeah.
Or digested
Little-
version,
yeah,
instead of our. Yeah.
Well, facilities are one. Rule.
Something about the webinar we spoke about, if the council is type of meeting that's subject to.
That's fine, we can, I feel like with
So
a
we can't do
webinar,
that
that's
too.
what
We
we.
can't do webinars.
Oh, you can't.
What? But what if, no, that doesn't make sense to me, because what if, like, we've done parent workshops before that have been entirely virtual.
If they're actually getting together to discuss topic. If the council.
Oh, I see what you mean, right. No, so these would have to be, if we decide, like what Kim was saying, if these are, if we are learning from someone, not for any decision-making purposes or even discussion purposes, just for, just a community workshop that we happen to organize.
Yeah, same procedural rules that apply to the working groups.
I think so.
And couldn't we put a call out, just a general call for questions people would love answered, and then we could give those questions to the people giving the webinar, and they could just integrate it into it.
Great, so our calendars.
I know I was one of those parents that would be like, oh, there's a business meeting today. I want to jump on. Oh, great. There's someone from blah, 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 blah. And I have a little question I want to ask. So I want that accessibility, and that's the whole reason for, I want that for others. And that's the whole reason for
No, I agree. We don't wanna lose that. I think there's a balance to be struck between kind of the really comprehensive agendas where it becomes hard to actually have a conversation because there's so much on the agenda. Which I think is also like pretty limiting to parent voice. So I think we'll just have to figure it out. Yeah.
And I will say, for this year, since it's not gonna go into effect for the first couple months, really is just 4 meetings that we're missing. So we can also figure out if that's gonna work after those 4 meetings and then decide over the summer if this doesn't feel like it worked and change the bylaws again and go back to a different structure. So I'm happy we're having all these deliberations and talking about it, but I do think that it's really just 4 separate meetings that we're really talking about.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We might be missing some sort of conversation.
I get you.
somewhere.
Nothing's might have.
That's a big deal.
I always appreciate the grounding perspective.
Yes, that is.
Okay, so I think that's kind of it for today for working groups and bylaws amendments calendar. Great. The next thing on the agenda is finalizing the liaison schools, which here's what I'm going to propose for this, because we do need to start moving forward with reaching out to our schools. I do still feel confused about the districts that we've posted. So I would like to reach out to Raphael and Nicole to make sure that we're reaching out to the right principals. And so I think we can maybe vote to approve the list of D15 schools and wait until we get a bit more information or a confirmation of the D75 schools with the D15. Does that feel okay?
Have you heard anything about the president?
No, I was, yes, I was expressing frustration with that just before the meeting started. So we still, this also for folks on Zoom, we still have 3 vacancies on our council. 2 vacancies for borough president appointees, which anybody who has a child at a D15 school or who lives or works in the District 15 area is eligible to apply for the borough president appointee seat. We also do not have a D75 representative, which also makes these questions of like ensuring that D75 schools have a voice in this room difficult. So I'm going to do some outreach over the next couple of weeks, both to make sure we've got the schools correct and to see if there are any parents who might want to represent you.
It's kind of delaying for the appointment.
I don't know.
I believe we often have them by close to now. The problem, Katina has reached out and CEC to their office and we just haven't heard back. So it is possible that people have applied and they have had other things on their plate and haven't gotten to it yet, or that nobody's applied, we just don't know. So we're gonna, Ken knows some people in the office, so I think he's gonna explore. But what I was gonna say on that point is if we're voting to finalize this today, and then Shanice helps us with doing the initial contacts with the schools, those of us that have 5 schools should decide right now, or before making contact, which of those 5 schools you will transition to a new member when the new member, hopefully when the new members join us. So then if we get, for each new member, we'll then decide which schools will we transition to them. But I think it's important to be transparent with the principals, with the PTA presidents, the SLTs, that you will serve as the liaison for now until a new member comes, and then we will help transition to the new member once they join the council. You have six? Why do you have six?
I don't know.
We keep it. Does anyone have less than 5?
I do. Does anybody have 4?
I have 4.
Would you like to take one of Angelica's?
Which one do you want to give me?
I don't have a expectation. I'd like to keep them as 50.
172? How you feel about that? All right.
Thanks for saying something.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elsie.
Are we counting these D75 ones in those numbers?
Yes.
Okay, and then we are still missing one that's not an E75, right?
Oh, yeah, shoot, we need to assign those,
The pre-K sites.
well, I mean, why don't I take it for now? And
Like you don't have enough.
Where is that? Is that K280? Is that
Who has 4? Anybody else have 4?
But I can take it.
Is that K280 pre-K or no, somewhere else? Okay.
I can take what this girl.
So that is.
I think Junsa has 4, but Junsa, I don't want to give you more than 4 because I think it's gonna be a little difficult for you to, it's gonna require more work for you to establish contact with everybody and to meet them, so I think 4 is good. for you.
And everybody else has 5 right now?
Well, but you know what, one of mine is a
Okay,
D75 school and I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm happy, same with me.
One of mine
I'm
is
also happy to,
One of
I'm
mine
also
is
happy to take it. And then give it to somebody if that's, you got it first?
Okay, thank you, I really appreciate it. All right.
I
Roll
move-
call vote?
Yeah, I move to vote on the liaison list.
Second part.
Do we need to say the district? 15 schools.
School league.
Sorry, I thought you had said we're
Yes,
gonna vote
on the District 15, on the school liaisons for the District 15 school.
Yeah. I think we just need-
Just to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Let's see, Carrie, you got the motion on the second. Yeah, perfect. All right, you wanna call out names?
Okay. Councilmember Angelica Cesario,
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Elton Dodson,
Yes.
Councilmember Ken Eby,
Yes.
Councilmember Angelica Jadunandan. Jadunandan. I got it. Okay. Councilmember Tina Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Wanless.
Yes.
Councilmember Chingsha.
Yes.
Councilmember Karen Swirling Muller, yes.
Great, so that's approved unanimously, thanks.
Yay.
everybody. So next steps with that, Shanice, is that how you prefer to do it? Does that work for you to introduce people to the principal at the schools where they're the liaison, to send like an introductory email and then they continue? That feels like a lot, right?
Yeah, so I have not done that before in the past, Antonia and whatever your respective schools are, you guys would reach out to them on your own, but according to Anthony, you have to. Thank you.
How about this, Anthony? Does this, tell me if this meets basis requirements? Could we, from the D15, from the CC15 email address, send a list of the names of representatives for each of the schools and say, the person who's listed next to your school is going to be reaching out to. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I'll put together a list and then maybe if you could just send that to principals and then the name is at least familiar to them before they see it in the box.
Okay.
And I can share a template of what I used in the past as my
Oh,
introductory
that would be
email.
great.
Yeah, I do have those,
Okay.
you know,
Oh,
I've
perfect.
CC'd on them. The box, and we got email.
Yeah, yeah, so we need to, when we send those emails, try to send it to the principal, PTA president,
Coordinator, no?
parent coordinator, CC, Shanice at the D15, and did Raphael want to be CC too? Okay. Yeah, why not?
At least on that first contact, I feel, and then once you have a rapport with the principal, you can.
Can you send us that sample?
Yeah, I'll send, it's just one that I came up with, so
Okay.
tweak is needed, but.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, so who you?
So principal, PTA or PA president or presidents, parent coordinator, Denise at the D15 email, and Raphael.
And maybe Jonathan, when you share the template, you can just put all that in the email too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And are,
that's super.
are we pulling most of that information just from their websites? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was also a master document. I
Um,
don't know what that word, there's a
yeah, primary document.
primary document that holds some of it. I just don't know if it's been updated for some of the administrative changes, leadership changes.
Yeah.
Like I got an email today actually from the new PTA president at 8:39 where I was the liaison. And so I think a lot of schools have done new elections. And so I think just go to their website
Okay.
and email who it says it is. And then if it's the wrong person, hopefully somebody will redirect you.
And I can share the contact info that I have.
Do we typically reach out to the PCs, the parent coordinators at the schools to make sure we update that? Because I think it's important to update because the president's council is gonna ask for that
Yeah,
list, especially the PTA presidents and the parent coordinators.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is that how we have done in the past to keep those lists updated?
I don't know.
Do you know, should we,
You know?
how do we keep that contact information up to date?
Like the PTA leadership, the parent coordinator and the principals and the parent coordinators, DOE should be able to provide.
Yeah,
Right.
Michelle Ortiz,
Oh,
I get the contact list from her, the family support coordinator
Right.
for the district.
And does she give you the PTA contact or just the parent coordinator and the principal?
Just the parent coordinator and the principals.
Okay. And then we can reach out to the parent coordinators for the PTA.
Probably could do the PTA.
Okay, awesome.
Is it something that the secretary can get together, our secretary?
Okay. The list of, the just update that list? Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm Michelle do it.
Well,
I'll look at
you're
it.
doing a lot already.
Okay.
I'll share, thank you.
You're doing a lot.
I'll share with you the contact info that I have.
Okay.
And see what you think. makes sense.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we're set on liaison schools. Just down to old business and new business and then public comment. I'm aware that we've got a person joining us in the room who may be waiting for public comment. Would you like to go ahead and make your public comment and then we'll finish up our business? Yeah.
Hello again, everyone, for the ones that I met last year, or last spring, summer. Yeah, I'm Kevin Blaze. I'm a self-published independent author, and I also have a introduction to creative writing course called From Consumer to Creator. I just want to pass out some flyers, for those who are interested. You guys do advise on education programs. New York City is being left behind. Public school system and students are being left behind when it comes to creative writing. Our last public school graduate to direct a movie was Spike Lee. He's 71 years old. Our last author that graduated from the public school system was Jonathan Nathan, who's 61 years old. Our students have amazing ideas. They're just not being told that they can make a living, have a life change with the ideas that are in their heads. And this is where I come in. They can write the next Shrek, Little Mermaid, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, but there's no budget in the schools for creative writing. If you go to schools, 90% of the students have never met authors. When I was in the public school system, I never met an author, and I'm trying to change that so I can use the CEC's help. If anybody is interested in, I talk a little bit about my program, I'll leave them down on the table over here, and that's pretty much it. I am a published author. Fictional series, book 1 and 2 is out. It is a trilogy, and the creative writing courses. I teach them the components of creative writing and also how to protect their work, trademarks. I am trademark, copyrights, NDAs, just to name a little bit, and I can go in depth with it. If you are communicating with any principals, there's no reason that a principal should be the head of a school and the school has not met any authors, especially with the literacy problem, the reading problem that we're having in New York City. So thank you for your time, and I hope I didn't.
Is this for all grades?
Sure.
Is this for all grades?
6 through 12.
Okay.
Like one-time workshop?
No, I have an
regular
8-week,
series?
I have an 8-week course. So if anybody else. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Let's see. Sorry, Kim, I took your parliamentarian job. Asked for public comment, but do you want to see if anybody? Anybody on Zoom?
I am not offended.
Oh, you should.
So unmute myself.
No, stay,
Oh,
Michael
okay.
pick you up there, yeah.
Good evening. Anyone on Zoom have any public comments? Even the translation lines, you can just raise your hand if you have a comment. We'll just do it that way tonight. Comment or question?
No comments from Bangla.
No questions from the Mandarin line?
No questions or comments in the Spanish line. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. And for the folks who are on Zoom, if something comes to you later that you want to ask, please just, I think I'm here. Just jot something into the chat or raise your hand and make sure to catch you. So, old business, where else do we want to circulate the resolution that we passed at the last meeting? So far, it's gone to the superintendent, face. I also included it, I sent 2 welcome emails, one to District 15 principals, APs, and parent coordinators, and one to the District 15 community more broadly, and I included it there. Where we haven't done any targeted sharing yet is like our local elected officials. That feels important.
Definitely the borough president.
Borough president, city council members.
Did any of us attend the rally that was held, what the official summit, it was outside of City Hall, after the 20-year vote in the.
Oh, I was not there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think there was a pretty good group of elected officials who were there, including the borough president, council member, Lincoln Wrestler,
Agreed.
and a number of others. Yeah, yeah, so I think we could probably share with those individuals, at the very least, the council member, I'm sorry, Sean, thank you. I think there as well.
Got good representation.
Yeah, very proud to see
Really
that.
good. Okay, so yes, we can definitely send it to VP's office, Lincoln Wrestler, Shahani, Alexa Villas.
When you
Marcelo
say,
Martinez is great as well.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When you say deep, like deep teen community, like how is that different? Who is that?
Oh, like who did my email go to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who has signed up for our email updates. Oh, so it's not like all parents in the district. I don't have access to.
Maybe like PTA.
PTA president.
You did send it to the parents.
Oh, I sent it to the parent ones, yeah, but not to the PTA president. I need to reach out to Liz anyway about.
That list, because it may not be. I mean, they should have done elections at the end of the year, but some may do it in the beginning of the year, so I know we didn't even have our first meeting yet.
Do we want to share with some of the advocate groups?
Share back to Project Open Arms, for instance.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are the different parent communities online, like on Facebook, there are a couple, I think AQE has a Facebook page, and what's our policy for those types of,
You can share anything you want as a parent. Like once the resolution has been passed, it's public information. So you can share it in any community that you're a part of freely. I think coming from like the central email, what's valuable to think about is who are the nodes who can then either leverage that information or share it further. And so for elected officials, you know, they're already doing this work, but it's always helpful for them to know that this community of parent leaders also support what they're doing.
And I feel like, this would be a good place also, especially as we're reaching out to our schools where Tina was able to do the AI, breakdown of the meeting notes and transcript to share with all the schools. And I feel like, schools have been asking, because we did not do a great job, in my opinion, in the past of sharing when resolutions passed and spreading to the community. So I think this list that we are creating now should just be every time a resolution passed, we integrate it into the monthly blast that we send out with the summary and the slides and everything in the meeting that either comes centrally from the office or we all share with our liaison schools. And then we also send it to the electeds, to the others, just so they're aware of the work. So I think the communication that very often people just weren't aware of the great work that was happening and what was going on. So the more open and transparent we can be.
Yeah, and some of that will change depending on the topic of the resolution, but
Right.
That's a good idea. The other thing with that is that if anybody is not an enemy of Microsoft and wants to help us figure out like a proper listserv setup, like right now to send something out, we're literally copying and pasting. And it's not a sustainable solution.
They don't do groups.
It has to be through Microsoft.
So I tried, I guess it's a business meeting, we're almost done anyway, so, I'll just, yeah. It was so frustrating. I tried to set up, like a commercial, email marketing setup because these things have existed for a while. However, yeah, because we're sending from a domain that we don't own, we're sending from the DOE domain. Almost everything went to, so Shanice set it up. We got all of our contacts imported into it and like almost none of them actually reached the class. And because we don't have access to DOE server, name servers and stuff, we can't change that. We could, through the domain that we do own, we don't have any email addresses. We could pay to have email addresses, but then that also, it just creates another inbox that Shanice then has to check, which is like not helping the general workload challenge. So then the DOE IT told me to set up just a contact group, which seems like the most straightforward way to do it. However, from what I'm able to access, I can only enter names one at a time. There's no way to import a spreadsheet, which this is just like, it's 2025.
Outdoor contact list? Yeah, that's not the solution.
I
mean, it's possible.
It's like, I feel like I'm more bothered by this than you are, Shanice. You just like have been very calmly like sending these things out, but like I would be pulling my hair out. It just, you should be able to send it to one list that's like D15 community and like it goes.
And have it not go to spam.
And have it not go to
I have
spam.
a question. We talked about this a little bit
You set
before.
up that.
So with our domain, the CEC domain, where our website is, who has administrative access to that?
Me and Shanice. It is hosted by GoDaddy, which is not my favorite hosting platform. Yeah, and we don't have any emails.
Is that mandated? That has to be?
Not that I.
Because as an education, I think that like Google Workspace, for example, will give us a free account and that would allow us to have free email addresses. Like if we could have CEC, I won't use the term branded, but you know what I mean,
Right,
CEC email addresses instead of Gmails or whatever else, I think it just presents a more professional communications experience for people.
Yeah.
I just stole the domain and I just flipped the CEC in 15, but it's the same. But that's all I had to say.
Is what mandated?
Is
The hosting.
GoDaddy?
Hosting. Yeah.
It's not mandated, but the website is mandated.
Right,
So
no,
we have that, yeah. So I don't know how to.
Is it possible to transfer the domain to another host? I mean, if it's not mandated, I guess the answer would be yes.
Transfer is like, we can take what's on this website and just like copy and paste to another.
Well, you just move the name server from GoDaddy to whatever else, whatever other service
You
that
would
might
not
be
be
more.
taking that. You should
Right.
say that. But like, there's, yeah, I
Elton will
don't,
help you.
I don't
with that.
see any reason why we couldn't transfer to a different hosting service, and I do think so that.
Yeah.
And it could be a service that's, that's not property and aligned
Replay
to our work.
hosting is great, like that's what I've used for university contacts, and they're super cheap, replay hosting.
I think that's a one.
Replay hosting.
I think you have a working group.
Oh, no, it's not the working group of my dreams. Okay, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because in my opinion, like, that's a pain point and we as a council clearly value communication and transparency. And that would be easier if we had modern systems that made it easier for us to do.
It was modern at one time.
It was modern at one time, it's been 1998.
Is there no way to put everybody, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be dynamic then though, if people added on, but like put it into like a Google listserv setup where if it's just outgoing, turn off that anyone can really respond or that anyone can do anything. So you would get that like million emails back and forth unsubscribe.
Right, that's what I don't
Nonsense.
want.
Right, but, and then you could just send it to CEC list, Google group.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
there.
The
I
Google
don't know
Group
what the,
might be a
I don't know what the like the security concerns would be for that by exporting a list that was collected by the DOE and sticking it somewhere else. That would be the,
I mean, right now it's living in Google Docs, so.
yeah, so I guess it's a Google already has one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that you can do as a spreadsheet.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I'd be happy to work on that. I don't know if you wanted to take it on or the, okay.
Please.
Are we able, are we able to, am I able to have access to the website, like making those edits, or does it have to be?
I would be comfortable sharing access with you. Yeah, Casey's not in the room, so you know. Yeah, I mean, it's having another set of eyes would be great because I just don't have the bandwidth to like figure it out, and I think Shanice, you don't either. Like, it's not, we're not gonna like, yeah. So if you are open to that, that would be.
Yeah,
Just another thought on like. I
Yeah.
don't know, I know we got the, I think from CEC two, sent the original text of the resolution, maybe I'm
Oh, do
wrong,
they?
but which. Or the resolution.
The resolution that we sent?
That we
That we
passed
passed.
originally came from another CEC. I can't remember which one. Maybe we can
I
send
think it
it
was
to other CECs as well.
Yeah,
Do
that's a
it.
good idea.
Yeah,
You said there was like a repository.
For the
of them?
ECC.
ECC has a repository, yeah.
Not going directly.
And one other, when we're messaging the PA presidents or the parent counselors, sending them a way to let the parents know how to sign up for our emails, so we have more people
Yeah,
getting those monthly.
yeah, it's a good idea.
We should ask CEC too, because they have a very robust mailing list system that can't possibly be as limiting as ours, because they have such an expansive group they mail to.
Yeah, Angelica, maybe when I give you access to that, we could also talk about like.
do you know any of the leadership then too? You do.
A little bit.
Okay, great. That's really helpful. So we'll start working on that, both for this specific resolution and for a broader communication strategy. Under new business, Angelica C reached out to the district about the gender inclusive curriculum.
I did, so I reached out to Raphael and Nicole, sharing our concerns, was a reminder, there was an article that I think you shared originally, Christina, essentially. Where the federal government is threatening withholding federal funding. Gender identity and, gender identity. As a first step, what we decided was let's get more. So I emailed Raphael and Nicole. Not clear to me whether they were already aware of this or not, but essentially their response was there are no proposed changes to New York City public school policy or operations. And essentially what they said is if any changes are made, they will let us know. And they also offered to raise it as a discussion item with the DOT, the district leadership team. So, I responded. That would be great. I don't have a sense of when or how often that team meets.
They meet monthly,
Okay.
but they haven't gotten started yet.
Okay, so that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, I think that's a good thing that the DOE is not planning any changes. Honestly, I don't have a sense of how much gender identity is a part of the curriculum today. Maybe that's a question to what extent it is.
And honestly, like how much sex ed the kids are actually getting.
Right.
At all.
Cause it was just in the case of sex ed, it wasn't like learning about gender in general.
It was in sex ed. And I think this was a question that someone else raised too, that like, or maybe it was in their response, I can't remember, that the funding that was a threat was more like Department of Health than Department of Ed. And so in some ways, like, this is one of the things that's so frustrating about this federal administration is there's these threats come in constantly, and it's hard to tell sometimes which ones are gonna have a material impact and which ones aren't. So it sounds to me from their response like this is maybe not one that we need to sound all the alarms about, but definitely something to watch. I don't know if that's.
I will say, no, that sounds like it's by design. There are so many things.
Yes, you can't pay attention to it. It's.
I will say that last year I spoke with Raphael, and I don't wanna quote him because he's not here, but I've always felt very secure in how he's reacting to all the threats.
And
That's
Nicole,
good to hear.
yeah, both of them, yeah.
Okay, great. And then the last piece of new business that I wanted to put on here was something that you brought up, Jonathan, about school forms and language access.
Yeah.
I have to say, I did not know that those forms are not provided to parents in their home language. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that. I assumed that when parents indicate that they speak a language at home, that they then receive forms in that language. And they don't,
And they're not digital.
and they're not digital.
And,
And so,
and also on
Which
one of the forms, the blue
like the blue
card,
cards and,
and there's like a pink card for like pickups and whatnot at my school. And even on that, I brought it up last year, 2 years ago, where it says mother, father. Like it's,
Yeah.
I was like, well,
we don't need to
be,
do this.
we need
Yeah.
to be more inclusive because there are many people who are taking care
Yeah.
of children in your school. And so
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be a larger discussion with the district, who then can hopefully communicate it with the larger DOE in terms of revamping that whole system. Because I'm just saying, if I'm filling out the forms by hand, what if they can't read my handwriting?
Yeah.
What if they mess up a number that I write down, then they don't have an accurate phone number to call when my child is sick or whomever, or emergencies?
And
I mean,
our
it's,
school tried to do it online through Parent Square with a PDF, and it took me
Oh,
literally
God.
3 hours to
Yeah.
fill it out.
Oh,
I had to fill it out for 2 kids.
Uh-huh.
You can't just,
Square?
what?
On Parent Square, we use it also.
But it was like linked to a PDF, but then wouldn't edit and wouldn't whatever, and then finally, but they made it very clear we were not supposed to print them out, and then, today we all got copies of, hard copies, because no one else
Yeah.
spent 3 hours, obviously, it's just me. So.
My son's school does it electronic.
which is the problem, that some schools
Yours are
I
electronic.
was sitting down at the kitchen table this week, filling out the blue card, and I was like, there's an electronic form.
Oh,
yeah.
I know, so.
So, I mean, I think this is something we can bring to Raphael and Nicole, because this seems like a solvable problem.
right? Why don't the schools that are doing it electronically share with the other schools how they are doing it?
Mhm.
And
It's linked to a DOE.
And
Nice.
Ching Sa, I mean, you were having to like take screenshots of things and annotate them for people to read what was on the forms, for them to be able to fill out. Like, that's not, it shouldn't be like that, you know?
But I think the accountability is on DOE
Right.
to make
Yeah.
sure, like, not for
Not
not
even
for
the
the
district.
schools who have figured it out
it's the
to
DOE.
educate others. So, like, I mean, which would be great, right? But I
Right.
think really the accountability is on DOE to make sure the process is streamlined, right? And we know there are approved platforms that the schools can use, so that those platforms, they're using the way that they should effectively. And I know every school, they ask at least at my school, they ask what language would you like to be communicated
Right.
Yeah.
at the outset. So
Yeah.
they should be collecting that information
And using it.
and then using
Using
the
that.
platforms, right?
Right.
Because our school that we use Hop,
Yeah.
and it's actually very easy. So that should be across the board.
Do all schools have a platform that they use?
I don't think so.
Because I think ours is a few $1,000s to use, and the PA pays for that, so then we run
So
into
it's another
it
school
go up there,
equity.
yeah.
Yes.
I guess I also don't understand why things like the Nixa accounts, which are DOE, you know, that's not even at the district level, that's city, like. That information should be in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then the school should read it, but
access
that
it,
doesn't
pull it.
seem.
But I think this is when Raphael asked for what topics to address at the next meeting. I
Maybe
think
it's language access.
maybe
it's
it's,
one,
it's school forms and language access.
Yeah, and I think this is, since we're kind of wrapping up and have had enough time for all the discussion, we can maybe talk about this here too, that like in the meetings when the superintendent is presenting, I think the more we can ask him to focus on a particular topic, I think the more useful the information will be that we're able to get. And I mean, it's a balance because, you know, like what Kim was saying earlier, we want people to have access to the broad information that he tends to present as well. And at the same time, like sometimes that focus helps us to get deeper instead of skimming the surface.
And Jonathan, I think the mother-father thing that you raised is problematic too.
Yeah. This is like, yeah, this is, again,
These are
solving
things-
problems,
things
like,
that should not be happening.
yeah, we can't fix school funding tomorrow, but we could maybe fix the forms.
Yeah.
That would be good. Okay.
It might lead to higher voter turnout. CEC elections also.
We can figure out their accounts.
Yeah.
That's the proof.
I know, we can figure it out in our household. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's it. Any last questions or comments that people want to bring to the group before we break?
There is a workshop coming up for liaising with your schools. Did everyone get that list? The email,
Face workshop, I just can't
it
remember.
is a face.
This week or next.
Oh, someone just.
I'm going to read it out.
So just want to share from the teacher perspective that many teachers like the blue forms because they can take them on field trips and there isn't always the available technology for teachers to take emergency contact information with them outside of the school.
That seems solvable though too.
Mhm.
But a very fair point.
Yeah, but that is helpful to know how people use it, because I actually don't know.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, it was an email with a bunch of different, workshops. So there were a few to select from, but I did notice the school liaison, topic was one of them. If people want, I'll share it in the chat.
Yeah, maybe share it in the chat again. I have to confess that like sometimes there's so much volume of
There's a
like
lot.
announcements.
I
coming in
sat
that
down
I
one
missed
day and
out
just
to
went
talk
through all.
But yeah, at the ECC, I wonder if it's an ECC workshop. They offer a lot of really useful, kind of nuts and bolts workshops that go, I think, a little bit beyond what FACE can sometimes help us with, and also they're not DOE employees, and so sometimes they can frame things differently than FACE might, which is useful. AQE is also really useful for workshops and things like that. Great, I think that's it.
One question.
Yeah.
Who is going to be our president's council person that goes to those meetings? It's not, that certainly doesn't happen. I mean,
How often do they meet? Once a month? Is it always on Zoom or is it in person?
usually on Zoom, and there's always gonna be a Zoom option. It's not a state mandated organization, so it's not subject to OML.
Ah. That's good to me.
Yeah. Usually on the last Monday of the month, unless they decide to change it up. I mean, obviously I'm very familiar with everyone there. I can go with the caveat that, I may quit. If I can, but if we're going to one meeting, then maybe I can, and it's on Zoom, so. But if there's someone that would like to.
Yeah, I would love to not, so. If anybody wants to take just one.
Could we rotate?
Meaning like, could it rotate? Yeah.
But it's just once a month, right?
It is, I think, having served on the President's Council for so long, it is very useful to have a CEC person that's there and has that contiguous knowledge of our discussions and sort of the things that are happening. And it really is helpful, I think it's really helpful to the CEC to make sure that information coming back to us. Because that's your direct line to all the PTAs, so.
Is it, in your experience, you think it's most effective for one person to be that?
I think it's most effective for one person to have that continuity, yeah.
Sound like an expert to me.
Well, we could table it until.
I'm happy to, I mean, it's informal, so I mean, I'm happy to go now, but if anyone decides they want to be that person, then I will be happy to.
I'll ask you more questions about it.
Realizing that it's not the most effective thing. If other people wanted to split their responsibility and have it like 2 months at a time, like something like that, I would be down for that. I don't feel like I can commit to that for the whole year.
Well, you've been to the last President's Council meeting, so you're very familiar with it.
I have,
Is the
and
president?
I know I'm not gonna show up to all of them.
For a president?
You went to the last one.
No.
No, so-
No.
One thing about the President's Council that is really great is that the President's Council president or presidents are also on the DLT and they're also on CPAC, which the Chancellor Parents Advisory Committee, which means, you know, anyone who's in good with the President's Council presidents has access to the Chancellor every month directly. So it's a really helpful, and I always thought the relationship between the two should be pretty tight, which is why we're mandated to have joint meetings with them 4 times a meeting.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen this actually happen yet. Oh, I guess I meant because that person I care about too, but yeah. No, I was just realizing. Yeah. Mhm.
I'll ask more questions.
Okay. Why don't you go, like, when we know when a meeting is, why don't you go until we figure out and somebody else will take it on?
Last Monday, you said?
Has been in the past.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the meeting the workshop I mentioned is from ECC. Is everyone on that list, that email list?
Oh, yes, I did get the email.
Yeah,
I got that email.
they sent it to my regular email, but I corrected it and showed up with it.
Right, does anybody want a motion to adjourn?
I do adjourn. Second, let's see. Third.
Everybody in favor of adjourning? Okay, great. We're adjourning at 8:27. Good working. This was really useful, I think, and it, yeah, it felt like a very productive discussion to get where we can go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, my food.